Good day, everyone. Today I'll be talking about grounded theory. The scope of this topic includes definition, history, elements of grounded theory, its strengths and weaknesses, conclusion and recommendation, and references. What is grounded theory? According to Charmas 2006, Corbin and Strauss 2007, grounded theory is a design of inquiry from sociology in which the researcher derives a general, abstract theory of a process, action, or interaction grounded in the views of participants. This process involves using multiple stages of data collection and refinement and interrelationship in categories of information. This theory is usually for qualitative type of research and common in social sciences. When we talk about process, it is not limited to conceptions of time, phase, or stage. Process, as defined by Corbin and Strauss, is an ongoing action, interaction, emotion taken in response to situations, to problems. In addition to that, if you have a very unique topic and there are limited theories or non-existing theories available, then you can use grounded theory. Here are two features of grounded theory. Number one, the constant comparison of data. And number two, the theoretical sampling from different groups to maximize similarities and differences of information. In grounded theory, it uses multiple stages of data collection, which involves theoretical sampling and comparative analysis method. Here's a diagram to help us understand how theories are formed in grounded theory. This process is called theoretical sampling, starting from collecting of data from interviews, observations, informal conversation, group feedback analysis, and focus group. This data will be converted to word-for-word transcripts and will be analyzed using the constant comparative method. The noise in the data will be labeled as codes. These codes are grouped into similar concepts. From these concepts, categories are formed, which are the basis for the creation of a theory. That's why it is called grounded theory, because the theory is grounded in, or founded in, or come from the data collected in the study, not from textbooks, not from internet, not from existing theories, but from the data collected itself. Now let's move on to the development of grounded theory. It started with Anselm Strauss, a sociologist and a researcher. He came to the medical school to look for an interesting topic that would attract attention among medical people. He visited different hospitals and discovered that dying was a highly problematic issue. He then hired Barney Glacier to be his partner in research, hence both of them have personal experience regarding the subject. Their collaboration and research on dying hospital patients led them to write the book Awareness of Dying. In this research, they developed the constant comparative method, later known as grounded theory method. Glaser and Strauss developed a pioneering book that expounded on detail their grounded theory procedures, The Discovery of Grounded Theory, 1967. Here are the general elements in grounded theory research design. Question formulating, theoretical sampling, interview transcribing and context summary, data chunking and data naming or coding, developing conceptual categories, constant comparison, analytic memoing, and growing theories. These steps may not be taken sequentially in the research. The researchers sometimes need to go back and forth among these several steps. And now let's proceed to the first step. In formulating questions, here are the questions that will serve as a guide in collecting of data. First is knowing the core phenomenon, or what was the process. Second, what influenced the process to occur, or the causal conditions. Next is what actions taken in response to the process, or the strategies. And the last one, what were the outcome of strategies, or the consequences. Take this as an example. Pain relief is a major problem when you have arthritis. Sometimes the pain is worse than the other times. But when it gets really bad, phew, it hurts so bad you don't want to get out of bed. You don't feel like doing anything. Any relief you get from drugs that you take is only temporary or partial. From this example, what is the core phenomenon? So here, what is being discussed is pain. So pain is our core phenomenon, or the process. And what influenced this process to occur, or the causal condition? What causes the change in other variable? So for this example, intensity, or the intensity of pain is the causal condition because it varies from a little to a lot. Sometimes it's worse, diba? That you don't like going out or doing anything. And from this actions, what are the actions taken in response to this? So the strategist is taking drugs or pain reliever. So what were the outcome of the strategies or the consequences? The consequences or duration could be temporary, and the effectiveness of this drug could be partial. So in this step, we have to take consideration the core phenomenon, causal conditions, strategies, consequences in formulating questions. Now let's proceed to theoretical sampling. Actually, we have encountered this earlier. So theoretical sampling is the process of data collection for generating theory, whereby the analyst jointly collects, codes, and analyzes his data and decides what data to collect next and where to find them in order to develop his theory as it emerges. Data collection is not limited to interviews only, but you can also do observations, informal conversation, group feedback analysis, and focus group. As for Glaser and Strauss, they collected their data through observing nurses and physicians at work. They would sit at nurses' stations and take down observation. They would attend staff meetings, talk with patients, ask questions, and interview staff. In the previous lesson that we have on sampling and selecting participants in the study, first we identify the population, and from that population, we take the sample or the smaller unit that represent the population. Well, in theoretical sampling, the data gathered from different instruments like interviews and so on, this data will be analyzed into codes, and then from these codes into concepts, and then to categories until a new theory is formed. So this process is what we called theoretical sampling. Interview transcribing and context summary is probably one of the most time-consuming parts of the research. The researchers are suggested to transform the tape recordings of interviews and other notes into word-by-word transcripts for further analysis. However, some researchers, Glaser 1992, Dick 2005, argue that taking keyword notes during the interviews, tape recording the interviews and checking the notes against the tape recording, and converting them to themes afterwards can also do the job well and is less time consuming. Converting this data into word-by-word transcripts can be time consuming. So experts suggested that we can do it by converting it to themes to make it less time consuming. Proceed to data analysis and interpretation. So we have encountered this in theoretical sampling, the codes. So codes or coding is a form of content analysis to find and conceptualize the underlying issues among the noise in the data. During the analysis of an interview, the researcher will become aware that the interviewee is using words and phrases that highlight an issue of importance or interest to the research. They are noted and described in a short phrase. The issue may be mentioned again in the same or similar words and is again noted. This process is called coding, and the short descriptor phrase is a code. Now let's have an example we have earlier. So this is from a response of an interviewee. So as you can see, the noise in the data or words or phrases that highlight importance or interest will be noted. So these words are what we call codes, and the process is what we call coding. Here are the three stages of coding procedures of grounded theory. We have open coding, axial coding, and selective coding. Open coding is the process of breaking down, examining, comparing, conceptualizing, and categorizing data. In open coding, this is the stage where all the codes come in and will be reduced into small set of themes. This data will be compared, analyzed, recognizing patterns, similarities, and their differences, and then they will be grouped into concepts and categories. These codes will undergo axial coding, wherein the researcher uses the codes and memos to show how categories relate to each other. So this is a stage wherein the researcher begins to abstract meaning from the data using the memos about how categories are beginning to explain the process. In selective coding, this is the process of selecting the core category, systematically relating it to other categories, validating those relationships, and filling in categories that need further refinement and development. Stage categories are selected and an explanation of how they relate to each other and what stories they tell. This is the overall explanation of the theory that emerged from the data. In the coding procedures, we encountered codes, concepts, and categories. Do we mean by this? Codes are then analyzed, and those that relate to a common theme are grouped together. This higher order commonality is what we call concept. And concepts are then grouped and regrouped to find yet higher order commonalities called categories. So these concepts and categories lead to the emergence of a theory. What theory emerged during the conduct of the study by Strauss and Glaser? Pardon me if this may sound a bit gloomy, but to help us understand better what grounded theory is, let me share with you the output of the study Awareness of Dying conducted by Glaser and Strauss. So, what theory emerged during their study is the four types of awareness. We have close awareness, wherein the terminally ill patient is not aware of his health condition. The physicians, the medical staff, the family and relatives of patients are treating the patient with optimism rather than being realistic about his health condition. The second type of awareness is called suspicion awareness, wherein the patient still is not aware of his health condition but is suspicious based on how the physicians and the family and relatives are treating the patient. The third is mutual pretense awareness, and the fourth is open awareness. In the year 1960s, physicians are reluctant or hesitant in talking openly about death to patients, but today is a different story. So this makes the study Awareness of Dying by Strauss and Glaser relevant until today. What are the strengths in using this grounded theory method? Number one, this is an effective approach to build new theories and understand new phenomena. High quality of the emergent theory. Emergent research design reflects the idiosyncratic nature of the study. Findings and methods are always refined and negotiated. Requires detailed and systematic procedures for data collection, analysis, and theorizing. The resulting theory and hypothesis help generate future investigation into the phenomenon. Requires the researcher to be open-minded and able to look at the data through many lenses. Data collection occurs over time and at many levels, helping to ensure the meaningful results. If you have a very unique, peculiar, or distinctive topic, when there are limited resources or non-existing theories, then you can do grounded theory. What are its weaknesses? First, huge volumes of data, time-consuming and painstakingly precise process of data collection or analysis. Lots of noise and chaos in the data. Prescribed application required for the data gathering process. There are tensions between the evolving and inductive style of a flexible study and the systematic approach of grounded theory. It may be difficult in practice to decide when the categories are saturated or when the theory is sufficiently developed. It is not possible to start a research without some pre-existing theoretical ideas and assumptions. It requires high levels of experience, patience, and acumen on the part of the researcher. It takes a lot of experience and patience in using this research design. For Strauss and Glaser, it took them 6 years to complete their study. Thus, if you enter a study with no framework or no theory, then you can do grounded theory. And if you wish to discover explanation to certain issues that is not yet articulated, then you can do this grounded theory. The time and data of analysis, resources, experience of researcher, acceptance of methodological processes should be taken in consideration in executing grounded theory methodology. Here are my references. So that ends my report. Maraming salamat po and mag-ingat po tayong lahat. See you soon.